Thanks for joining the Home Matters Podcast with Eric and Gena Boggs, where they lead authentic, raw discussions about marriage, family life, kids, intimacy, and sex from a biblical perspective. Now here's your host, Eric and Gena Boggs.
Hello, hello.
Hello, welcome to Home Matters.
That's right. Episode
Podcast number 54.
54.
We're glad to hear.
So glad you were here.
And always good for you to join us. Hope you at work, rest, or play, whatever you're doing.
That's right.
We hope you.
I would love for you to join us at a Marriage Matters getaway. Yeah.
That sounds good. Good plug there.
Would you like to go?
I'm going with you.
You going with me?
We always grow in our marriage when we go.
That's right. Always.
Even though we're leading, we always have time.
There's always room to grow.
Yep.
Yeah. Jump on the website, homematters.family. You can get all the information you need.
Home Matters, one word,
Home
family.
Matters. Yep.
Easy.
.family. And you can get all the info there. September 28th to 30th in Charleston, South Carolina. Beautiful place.
Beautiful place.
Nice
so come
venue.
Go with us.
Yep. Love for you to go ahead and
Starts
get registered.
on a Thursday night late. First session's 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Just
Then,
a short time there.
Yeah, you got some free time Friday until about mid-afternoon, and then we meet for several hours.
Come go with us.
Yeah. And you
Let's
have
get
a
in
date
our
night.
topic. We got.
Okay, yeah.
I know last time we talked about
didn't get
this,
as far as
and
we meant to.
I want to get to this because we didn't get very far last time.
Yep.
We're talking about forward family.
Family forward.
Family forward. Family forward, forward family.
Yeah. You named it, and then you forgot the name.
Yeah, I remembered it. I was just playing on the words there. But we're talking about being productive in our always giving room for growth, always growing, right?
That's right.
Moving forward.
Growing up.
Fruitful in all the
Productive.
areas of our life.
Yeah. Yeah, just making sure that we're always moving towards what God has for us. We talked about that a little bit last time, that, God's resources never run out. There's always some new. There are things he wants to drop in our life. And if we just kind of stall out in one season or at one good time or one bad time, we never get to what God has.
For time's sake, we're not going to cover all that we covered last time. But go back to that,
listen to 53.
And we're going to talk about what we believe brings movement or progress or
growth.
Yeah, that growth, that forward movement that we're always
in different areas of your family. Yeah, and we'll kind of break it down with different areas: marriage, parenting, romance. But we think that these things are applicable to either of the categories we're talking about. And the first is just information. Yeah, some new information.
Yeah, and the fact is so many times we're limited because we're gathering information maybe from the wrong sources.
Yep.
Or we're not gathering information at all. We're not giving room to learn, to grow.
I think there's so many people that are guilty of that. We seek out knowledge and we gain. Ask anybody a question, they don't know the answer. They're going to Google it. We're knowledge seekers. There's knowledge all around us. But even with that, I think so many times in home, family, marriage, those relationships, sometimes we're guilty of just getting stuck, like we talked about, in what we've always done.
First move toward change usually is produced because of the right information.
Yeah, get
or
some
you've
new
gathered information. Usually the first step toward change is because I've gotten information.
Yeah.
That I know something can be different or I know, and sometimes that can even be from negative experiences.
Yeah.
That we gain information. We don't want to do that anymore. If I touch a hot iron, boy, I'm struggling talking. If I touch a hot iron, I know what's wrong.
You just kind of stumbled over it again.
Iron.
Iron. That Southern boy accent is coming all through today.
If I touch a hot iron,
if he touches a hot iron,
self-conscious. How did you say it?
Iron.
Let's go forward here.
Good gracious, what happened?
But again, if I do that, then I've got enough information that I know I don't want to do that again.
You don't want to touch that again. That's right.
So with that, the Bible's very clear about gaining information. A lot of you have heard this verse, but Hosea 4:6, it says, my people are being destroyed because they lack knowledge. We don't get the information that we need. And boy, how true.
And a lot of times in marriage, especially, I think that we're just prideful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we it's hard to admit that, you know, as a wife, I might be failing. I need to do something different.
Always room for growth.
Yeah, we point to the other person, I think.
So again, you know, how do you move forward? Just make sure that you're seeking out
That's right.
wisdom, knowledge from the right sources.
That's right.
Right?
From the Bible, from some people headed in the same direction as you are.
What's the second component?
Podcast. Secondly, exposure.
Yep.
Talk to us about that one.
You know, the thing is in life that, you know, if I'm ever exposed to something that creates momentum or that creates growth in my life, then, boy, once I experience that, once I'm exposed to something different, it's kind of like I always use this illustration, kind of like power windows in a vehicle.
You don't want to do this anymore?
You know, I'm old enough. A lot of these younger folks,
they don't make cars with that anymore.
I don't think they do, but it used to be you had a handle that you rolled your window down.
Yeah.
And once I got a vehicle that had electric windows, I cannot imagine.
I can't imagine a car without heated seats.
Oh my gosh, you're spoiled.
I am spoiled.
But
I can't imagine a car where the clicker doesn't work.
But what we're saying is maybe there's times in our life that we need exposure. And
that's so true.
We need to get around the right company.
Yeah.
The right friends or the right culture that exposes us to something different.
Yeah.
Because again, you know, it's part of the informational part. The exposure part gives us information. You know, I love what it says in Isaiah, that we continue to learn to do well.
Yeah.
So again, we're saying information, exposure. Number 3,
attitude.
Oh, that's huge. As far as growing.
I need a new attitude.
You know, I tell couples all the time, you set your attitude in a plane, you set an attitude. It's not altitude, it's an attitude. It's the posture of the plane, and the posture of the plane tells you the movement of the plane or the direction of the plane.
That's right.
And boy, it's so important that we have a mindset.
Yeah, that term there, growth mindset, that's used a lot, education field, whatever. But, you know, that you have a growth mindset about your marriage and about your family, that, you know, we don't take on the attitude that this is as good as it gets, or, you know, we're just that couple, or we're just, you know, everything's always on the negative. It's always the half empty instead of the half full. We can just get that negative attitude. And sometimes that comes through, you know, things that have happened that haven't been good, that have been bad. But then we get stuck, as we've talked about, in that little attitude and never move past
some people are kind of at a place where, because of things that have happened, because of exposure, you know, experiences they've had in life, I think they're kind of set in a glass half full.
It's true.
You know, their perspective or outlook on life. And I think that's something that we all have to consider. And in our marriage, you know, are we looking at our marriage saying this is just the way it is? You know, when we got married, we were in love, but now, you know, it's just the way it is. We're not throwing stuff at each other. We're not, you know, she's not setting the bed on fire or anything like that. But again, we're just existing together and just getting by, just survival mode.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, if you're a Christian, if you're a believer out there listening, I think you should really be challenged right now, because as a believer, we have to know that God always is working for our good. He has our best in front of us, and really, it is just contrary to the life that we are to live as a believer if we're just caught in that mindset and that attitude all the time.
Yeah. And again, all of us are subject.
So true. What about this one? You got exposure.
Let me say this before we move on.
Okay.
I love Philippians 2, where it says that we're to have the mind
of Christ.
The attitude is a better word there, of Jesus, who humbled himself.
Yeah.
And boy, that'll go a long way when it comes to our attitude toward each other. And this is kind of extra here, but I'm just saying, toward each other and toward our future. Because again, if we'll just humble ourselves and realize that God will give us grace.
So true.
The Bible says that He gives grace to the humble.
Thank
He
God.
resists the proud. And we miss so many times.
That's true. I said a minute ago, sometimes our holdup is the pride. It just doesn't say, you know, I don't need to learn anything. I don't need to be exposed to anything new. I don't, you know, ain't nothing wrong with my attitude, all those kind of places. But you're hitting it right there. It's the humble heart
Yeah.
is the one that says, hey, God, there's
So that gives
always
us room
for growth.
Progress. Gives us room for growth. Next thing.
Just being persistent. Yeah, just making sure that we are in this thing and we are not giving up. We shared the verse last week. We are always pressing forward to everything that God has. There's not last time. That we're always pressing forward, that we're patient, that Galatians 6, we're not growing weary in our well-doing, that we know.
We do right and we do right. We're trying to do better and we're trying to do better. And then I get tired. Mm-hmm. And you know what I've done? All I'm going to do? She can do something, but I'm spent.
I'm done.
Done. And all we're saying is this: everybody gets tired, everybody gets weary sometime, but don't grow weary.
That's right.
In trying to do what is right, trying to do the thing.
There is a payoff, right?
Yeah, and that persistence, that never give up kind of mentality, that thing that says, you know what, I'm going to fight this fight every day. I'm going to stay at it. I'm going to stay at pursuit. I'm going to stay.
Keep doing what you know you should do, right?
Keep treating my kids right. You know, sometimes they make me.
Keep loving my husband.
Yeah.
That's right.
And again, there's a determination that you'll find in your life that will move. It will create progress. It'll create momentum, but it'll always create some progress and some productivity in your relationship, in your home.
That's good. What about this one? What about just expectations? In moving forward, keeping that expectation out there, just keeping it alive.
Now, we've talked before about the thing of demand too, and how that can counter. I think that expectations, we're just saying if you don't expect progress, and sometimes, it can be a negative thing because if we have too lofty
of an expectation.
Am I making sense?
You
know what I'm talking about?
I'm trying to follow you.
We've always said our demands have not been very high in our marriage. We don't have these high demands on one another. She's got to meet all these.
Check all the boxes.
Yeah. All these markers where if she'll do those and I demand that, then. But what we are saying is this: we should always expect, have an expectation, exceedingly abundantly above all of the things that we can even imagine. God has more in mind for our life.
Yes.
And for our marriage. It can be so much better. And what we're trying to say is if we don't have if our bar is so low.
Yeah.
For our marriage, for our kids, for our romance.
For our spouse individually. Yeah. We talk about, I don't want you to misunderstand, we talk about not having high demands. They're just some silly things that we can have demands about.
Yeah.
Now, there are some things that we should be able to expect all the time, faithfulness, love, forgiveness. But there's some things that we just throw demands on each other that are, that are silly. And when those aren't met, then
You better have my clothes ready. You better have my food ready.
Shirt ironed. In your
better
food
get that
ready.
Grass cut.
Oh, no, I don't do grass. I don't do grass. But what we're saying is the expectations, not just of each other, but of what God has.
Yeah.
Because Eric may not, you always do, okay, don't misunderstand. He may not meet my expectation today. He may let me down. I may let him down. I'm human. I will. I may, do something that, he wasn't fond of. I'll let him down. I'll say something short or whatever. But in that, it's still not that my expectation is just wrapped up in what Eric can do and who he is, but it's in what I know God can do through both of us if we'll commit our life to him.
And the whole thing, what we talked about last time, just the expectation that we're going to continue to be fruitful and productive.
That's right.
In our relationship, that our life is going to continue to produce.
And you always keep, that is just part of the framework of who you are as a family. If it's a tough time now, if we're struggling, if we got things going on, the expectation is, okay, this is a season and we are moving past this. This will not stop us. This will not break us up. This is not going to take us down. But the expectation is out there that, all right, one day we'll look back on this and see how we grew from it. So in marriage,
what does that look like? We're talking about these different areas, these different elements, or different. Maybe what's the good word for the things we talked about just now?
Yeah, the information. Yeah, the things that help us to move forward,
to progress.
The information, exposure. All right, attitude, persistence, expectation. All those things move us forward. So in a marriage, what's that look like? Well, as far as information, we kind of said it. You take in the right information from the right resources.
And when we say that, through the years, we can look back and the books that we've read.
Oh, yeah.
The people that we've listened to. I always say it this way. You're going to be the same 5 years from now as you are today, except for the people you're listening to, the people you're hanging with, and the books you're reading, or nowadays we've got everything on this. But, if we don't gather, if we're not trying to learn how to be a better husband.
That's right.
If I'm not trying to get the information to be a better father. If I'm not looking, and again, the greatest source of that is the Bible, the Word.
Absolutely.
God's Word to our life.
Yes.
And again, the other thing with marriage is everybody has some turbulence, right?
Oh, yeah.
We go through some bumps.
Bumps in the road. You might hit a wall. It might be more than a bump.
I talked about the attitude gauge. When you're ascending in a plane, when you're climbing, when you get off that runway, you feel immediately, you begin to feel this.
The lift.
Yeah, the lift. But you also begin real quick, you begin to feel as the thermal bands or whatever, the wind that's blowing, you begin to feel those things and you'll bump. But the thing is as long as those engines are working, and I hope they do if you're on a plane today.
Absolutely.
But as long as everything's properly maintained and functioning, then you might go through some turbulence, but as long as that nose is up, you're going to continue to climb.
That's so true.
And we're just saying that, man, with marriage, we got to keep our attitudes right about it. And again, you can't live in your past.
I feel like we say that so often, but in marriage, that is so often where couples live. We're stuck in the past, in arguments, mistakes we made, hurts. Either we've been hurt or we've hurt the other. Sometimes I've seen where the one that has been hurt has gotten past it, but the one that hurt them can't get past it.
Yeah.
So there's so many things, so many places that we can get stuck, and always looking forward. You said it, always having the attitude, always making sure that we are in pursuit.
If you're in marriage
God
today
has.
and you've had some experiences happen, or you've had an argument this last week, or you've had something happen, all we're saying is don't get locked into that place.
That's right.
Again, wake up today and again, man, husband, be the leader. And look at your wife and say, I know that I blew it there, or I know that we blew it there, but that will not define us.
That's right.
I remember my kids growing up, there were certain times they had failures, and I'm just saying, I remember telling them, look, your failure will not define you.
That's right.
Your best days are not going to define you, and your worst days are not going to define you.
Isn't that the truth?
It is that persistence.
We can try to live in either one, right?
Yeah.
It's the persistence. The persistence in marriage, I think, must be in our pursuit. Our pursuit of one another, in relationship, in intimacy, in our sexual relationship, just the continued pursuit. And again, if I'm stuck in all these things that we've talked about, then the pursuit, it quits. It stops. But to continue to move forward, there has to be that pursuit. We talked about expectations.
Yeah. And again, the whole thing is, if we realize, you okay? If we realize the whole marriage relationship, what it's created for, it's created to be fruitful, to be productive. It's created for the purpose to bear the image or to reflect the relationship that Jesus has with people. And
yes.
And again, if it's created for that, we got to know there's so much that we're going to grow into. And that's the whole point of all of this, is to say, let's not get in a place where we're not making progress. If you're at a place that you say, I'm stuck, again, we'd say this first, look at what you stopped.
Yep. Look at what was it? What was it that stopped you?
Yeah. And then the other things that we've already mentioned, these components, these expectations. Listen, allowing God to help us to realize that even the things that we thought were going to destroy us, that God can turn those things, He can use those things to grow us. I know in our relationship, some of our some of our moments in life, some of our downfalls, some of our mishaps, some of our bumps in the road have actually become stepping stones for us to continue to move.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were talking that the fact that we're doing this podcast, okay, the fact that we do these Marriage Matters getaways, the fact that we're so passionate about home and family and what you can have, what God intends for you, every bit of that was birthed out of the most horrible time in our relationship.
Yeah.
And if we had gotten stuck there, well, first of all, we wouldn't be together. If we'd gotten stuck there,
I
mean, just
our marriage could have ended very easily.
Absolutely.
Our children wouldn't have been here. But the fact is what was meant to destroy us.
That's right.
Actually became, it's what Joseph said in Genesis 50 to his brothers. He said, "You meant it for evil, but God turned it and used it for good." And we just encourage you in that.
Like, that doesn't mean that, your hard time's going to put you on a podcast and doing stuff like some people will be like, I don't want to do that. But it does mean that if you
better days
are in front of you, it does mean that you are not finished yet.
The best is yet to come. We finished today. We're out of time again. But again, we're going to come back one more time. We still want to talk about parenting. Boy, biggie, romance, intimacy, sex, all that stuff.
But always moving forward.
Growing,
man, we just challenge. I want to challenge you. Keep moving forward. Yeah.
Hey, see you next time. You signed up?
Yeah, go sign up. I would love to see you in Charleston, South Carolina. It'd be great.
Yep. God bless you.
Bye-bye.